Is your head spinning? Is your heart racing? Is that fire in your veins? Are your bones burning? Is your skin yearning? 'Cause you're driving me insane. I kinda feel like I saw the light. You got me way up 1,000 miles. Can we stay right here in this atmosphere like we're flying out in space? Don't look down. Up this high, we'll never hit the ground. Don't look down. See the sky, we're gonna reach it now. Don't look down. Are your fists breaking? Are you climbing over walls? Are the times changing? Is the noise fading? 'Cause I wanna get it all. Don't look down. Don't look down.
And speaking of League, Brandon, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Thierry, he, him, his, and I am a third-year chemical engineering major from Sixth College. I play support for the varsity League of Legends team at UCSD. And I guess my favorite team is Cloud9. Their logo looks cool. I got a Cloud9 chair behind me. And right now they're not really performing, so it's wavering right now in the international tournament going on. But I also like indie games a lot. Right now I'm really into Slay the Spire.
Awesome. David, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hello, my name is David. I guess I'm more or less graduate at this point, but yeah, computer science was my major. And I guess what was the next part of this again? It was I'm part of the Splatoon team here at UCSD, and I kind of play more of a Slayer type of role. I guess favorite team is a little bit harder when it comes to Splatoon type stuff because the community's just got a million different little teams. But I'll give a shout out to the Purdue team. Purdue is, besides UCSD sports team, Purdue is my favorite team.
Yeah, and you were commentating for the TGEX 2021 Splatoon tournament. How did you think that went?
Oh, that was one hell of a tournament. It was just so exciting. I mean, we had FT Win come through, which is the 7-time North American champions. Which, I mean, they kind of steamrolled in grand finals, but credit to Arctic Moon for putting up a pretty good fight. I mean, I thought it was a lot of fun to watch.
For sure. Cameron, you want to introduce yourself next?
Yeah, so my name is Cameron, he, him. I'm a third-year Earth Sciences major with minors in physics and Asian American Pacific Islander Studies at ERC. I am the division head of UCSD StarCraft, as well as the team manager for our StarCraft esports team on campus. I'm going to stick to favorite StarCraft teams. So it might be a little bit obscure for our viewers, but I actually play for, represent and cast for Alpha X. So if you're Googling North American StarCraft teams, Alpha X should be the first thing that pops up. If it's not, let me know. I don't know. I've always dreamed of like joining Dragon Phoenix Gaming over in South Korea as well. They have some very top notch. I mean, just from the name alone, right? Dragon Phoenix Gaming, like it's you know that they're good. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Cameron. And last but not least, Chris.
Hi, my name's Christopher Benitez. I'm in 6th College. I'm a second year. My pronouns are he, him, his. Yeah, my major's international business, and I'm on the Valorant team. It's kind of hard trying to pick a favorite Valorant team just because the game's so new that like these rosters keep changing. So like at this point, who really knows? But I think I would have to go to Version 1 just because I like how they play. But other than that, like favorite game, I really like Borderlands. And
let's go.
Yeah, that game's sick. But yeah, that's that.
Yeah, Wario Land is just a really obscure GameCube game, and it's kind of a platforming masterpiece. So shout out for that. Cool. Starting off with a very general question. Anyone can answer these. What's the most exciting thing about being in collegiate esports?
Let me jump right in. So I think the most exciting thing is, I feel kind of bad for saying this, but you know, when you're representing your university and you're playing in a competitive environment, I mean, there's always that little bit of a rush you get, you know, when you reach the round of 4, when you reach the grand finals, that kind of thing in any sort of North American collegiate scene. And I think that it's unique because esports is different in its accessibility to people. I think that on one hand, it can be more accessible because there is usually, not all the time, but usually less of a physical aspect to it. On the other hand, gear is expensive, computers are expensive. So I don't know, you tell me if it's cheaper or more expensive to play in esports rather than regular sports. It's definitely different, so.
All right, I'll add to that. Most exciting thing about being collegiate esports obviously has to be the matches that we play. There's the big collegiate League of Legends tournament that happens once a year. And those matches are really exciting. It doesn't last for very long because there's a couple weeks where we're kind of weeding out the bottom tier teams. And then boom, it gets right into like very intense games against a lot of other colleges. And most universities do have teams. So there's a lot of people to face and scrims to have, and it's super exciting. And it doesn't happen all the time, but real life tournaments are also really fun. There was one that ASU hosted in the Marriott, or I think is in a hotel in San Diego a year or two ago. A real life tournament all day on a weekend, and it was a load of fun. It was kind of surreal just walking to this hotel. You're thinking, man, these are fancy people here. I kind of out of my league. And then you just see this whole setup, this giant ballroom just for gamers, like RGB lights everywhere. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm right at home. And also hanging out in real life is totally fun, but obviously that's been put on hold from COVID, but looking forward to doing that with the team next year.
Yeah, I would also like to add, because of course the tournaments, you know, especially when it's those close games, super exciting. But my favorite part is actually watching like the stream back if like those games are streamed, and then just seeing like all the support from like either like UCSD people or just like other people from the team or everything. I just feel like that really gives me like motivation to keep, you know, like doing it and everything. and just good to see that there's people out there who, you know, are cheering for you.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of, you know, nailed a lot of great points there. I will add that for Splatoon, what kind of an interesting case is we were the first ever university sponsored Splatoon team. So it's kind of an interesting scene for us because our scene isn't as developed in terms of collegiate. So it's kind of been interesting to kind of lead the way with other, trying to help other colleges try to build up their own sort of Splatoon teams and whatnot. So we're kind of excited to see where that's going to go, especially with Splatoon 3 dropping next year.
Cool. Now, before we move on to the next question, again, wanted to shout out Twitch Student. You can use ! Twitch Student in the Twitch chat, and you can enter in a giveaway for 10,000 bits. Thank you again for their support. And this question kind of piggybacks off of the last one. What are some of the best and most disappointing parts you've had in esports? And I encourage you to kind of come up with some anecdotes here. If you have any funny stories, I'd love to hear them.
All right, I can get us started on this one. So I mean, esports is just a roller coaster of emotions. Like you have like those games where you just pop off and your team pulls off like a crazy upset, and you're just riding the high of your life. And then there's those losses that you're just like, wow, if I did that one little thing different. There's a couple of different I guess sort of jokes within our team. Where, like, for example, we were playing a Clan Blitz match in Splatoon tournament against, I want to say it was like a Division 3 team or something like that. So like one division higher than us. And we basically lost that game by a single clam that we missed by about a fraction of a second. And that was just, it was just a gut wrencher. It sucked. But also we've had like some crazy like matchups where I guess another team that I enjoy is Crustacean Crusaders. They are a really quality team that's normally better than us, but we actually took them to 5 games in a best of 5 in a 3rd place match in the tournament and won. So that was definitely a pretty awesome high there as well.
Yeah, I definitely concur with David saying that esports can be, you know, pretty chaotic emotionally. There's, you know, a sort of reason why a lot of tournaments are run the way that they're run is because upsets are, in a way, expected to happen. So, you know, you've got one team that is clearly favored to win everything, but you know, in an instant, things can change just with the nature of video games. So, speaking of which. I think for me, my best moment playing for UCSD StarCraft was back when TESPA still supported StarCraft. I think it was my freshman year. We were going up against University of Manitoba. They are a Canadian university that was very, very highly ranked. They had something like 4 grandmasters, and at the time we only had 3 players. And so in our best of 5 series, similar to David's anecdote, we really had no choice but to make sure that I, not a grandmaster, could win against a grandmaster. So for reference, a grandmaster is like top 0.01% of all StarCraft players, you know, something crazy like that. And so I practiced a very aggressive build with my teammates for something like 5 hours, and you know, we were all sleep deprived and it was already the next morning. And then it's like, oh, well, okay, I'm going to give this my best shot. And it was a miracle that I won my match. Unfortunately, we didn't win the series, but I think that was a pretty legendary moment for me personally, as well as the team, because nobody ever expected that to come out of like the UCSD StarCraft team, because we were pretty small back then. But yeah, I think that going off of that, you know, we see these successes coming out, becoming public, and we see people, you know, getting interested. And I think that's the best part, you know, just getting new people into the game, joining us and also having fun with us. So.
Yeah, Cameron and David had great points. It's a lot about playing those high intensity matches are just the best moments or the worst moments. I already mentioned that real life tournament in ASU that for that ASU sponsor, that was really fun down in San Diego. But for this year, most exciting moment is definitely the fourth place match for the West Conference for Collegiate League. And we were playing against Cal State Fullerton. And it was a best of 5. We're on the 5th game. We're all tired. And we were streaming this game with some of our like coaches and subs on the team that were like shoutcasting the game for us, like commentating on it. And it's super exciting, but oh, this 5th game, it was not going well. It was really bad. It looked doomed. Like the people who were commentating our game kind of gave up on us. They were like, you could just hear it. It was dejected. It was like, UCSD, yep, happens again. We're losing. And just, out of some miracle, we won that game. And oh, that was like a high I could just ride for weeks. It was so awesome. And the worst part, it's got to be losing. It always happens unless you're like the very best team. But it still feels bad where you kind of obsess over the small things that you could have done better that would have made the difference. But it's all part of being on any competitive team.
Yeah. On that note about like losing, I feel like it feels bad enough to lose, but I feel like it feels like ultra bad where, you know, like it was up to you that you could have won, you know, and then like you just like, you know, you go to sleep and you're just thinking about it. You wake up and you're so like, damn, like you're just always like thinking about it. The moment that stands out for me is we were playing Cloud9 White in this tournament, which is like their B team. So it's not like the main Cloud9 roster, but like, and then I was like in this 1v4 situation, and then like I killed 3, and then there's like 1 left, and then I missed like my shot on the 1 person, and then it was like so many people were watching because it was like Cloud9 White and everything, and then I feel like I thought about that for like the next week, like just like because that would have been a big moment. But yeah, so that was probably my saddest moment. But for good moments, yeah, definitely. I think this. I mean, our Valorant team's pretty new. Valorant as a game is very new. Like, it hasn't even been out a year yet. But yeah, well, there's been this collegiate tournament. We made it to playoffs, and then that was fun. And then yeah, when the team does well, that's always the high time.
Definitely. Thank you all for your answers. And we're going to be moving into a simple question. What made you decide to join your teams?
I think that for me personally, I joined more so because I wanted to find a community of StarCraft players. So StarCraft is, I'm sure we all know, is a very old franchise. And because it's a 1 versus 1 game most of the time, it's not team-based. Teams such as I mentioned earlier, shout out to Alpha X, those teams are more for having practice partners rather than having teammates who like are physically in a game with you, competing with you. In fact, most of the time you're competing against your own teammates in these various tournaments. So yeah, going back to why I decided to join UCSD StarCraft, it was at the time there wasn't another video game that could really satisfy me. So what I mean by that is like, I couldn't find another competitive game. You know, nothing wrong with Splatoon and Val and League, but like they didn't really give me what I wanted. StarCraft is a different breed. It's like you have only yourself to blame for your failures, and you only have yourself to congratulate for your wins. And so, you know, going off of what has been mentioned earlier, like that winner's high, I get that every day playing on ladder. You know, after every win, it's something else. And so joining the team was like, hey, there are other broke ass college students at this campus who can also relate. And then Collegiate Esports just sort of followed. I was not really into professional StarCraft before coming to UCSD, actually. And so it just felt like Collegiate Esports was sort of the next step in a way. And of course, with the conception and proliferation of UCSD Esports sort of running parallel to me administrating my team, again, it just sort of like converged in a really nice way, which is, you know, very fortune based. It's not really indicative of any sort of effort, I would say.
All right, I guess I will go next. So yeah, I mean, obviously before us there was no collegiate Splatoon scene. Um, so with Splatoon, it was kind of just a game that I fell in love with because it's a very untraditional shooter developed by Nintendo. It's kind of one of those things where there's all these weapon classes and whatever, but a lot of times shooters, the objective is to get kills. And that's where a lot of the objective centers around. But with Splatoon, it was like, you don't have to be a good shot to be a contributing member of your team. Like if you're missing, that means you're inking the ground. And if you're inking the ground, you're helping your team. And as someone who can't like play an FPS shooter for the life of them, like I was like, dang, like they made a game for me. Like and it was kind of just took off from there. So I played through the first game, and then second game came out and I got into it. And I was like, man, like, I want to like keep playing this like more and more, and eventually found a small community of people that were interested in the game here at UCSD. We formed a team and competed in one of those North American Opens that FT Win won, and got knocked around a little bit, but we kind of continued to just go from there and just continue to grow. We've seen a couple of different people go through our roster, but it's a really solid bunch, and it's been a lot of fun, and we've kind of just developed it ourselves from there.
Yeah. I'll go. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
No, all right, my bad. For me, it was like, well, it's just like through like the past few years, I played like lots of games. I played like Smash, like League, and a bunch of like Overwatch and everything. And I tried my hand of being like as best as I can at that. I always like was aiming to be the best, but then like I don't know, it just never really worked out. And I never really felt like that passion, I guess, when those games. But when like Valorant came out, maybe it was just the time, because it was like right when quarantine hit. Like it probably couldn't be a better time. Like it was like everyone was back home. There was like nothing to do. So I was like, all right, well, this is perfect. Let me try Valorant. So then, yeah, I guess I spent an unhealthy amount of time for those few months playing Valorant. But then I realized that it's like, wow, like I feel like I really like this game, and I feel like I could really go somewhere with this. And then that was like the perfect time, because I saw like Trident Discord had like, they were doing tryouts. So I was like, might as well go try. And then I feel like I always like am happy about the tryout process, because there was a lot of people trying out. Valorant was like a big game at the time. Just a lot of people were trying to enter the scene. And then I was one of the lowest ranks. Oh, not the lowest, but I was one of the lower ranks out of a lot of people who were trying out. And I don't know if it was just because of those yerbas I drank right before the tryout, or like what happened. But like I feel like I straight up just like catfished them, because I played out of my mind during those tryouts. And then I got onto the team. And then from there, I feel like it was just such a great experience. I feel like now I'm actually there to like where I'm a good enough player. And I feel like you can use that as a catalyst. You go from beyond collegiate and make your own teams and pursue like other things. But yeah, I just feel like it was a lot of the right place, right time. But yeah, very happy about that.
So there wasn't too much of a decision-making process for me. I always wanted to join a League team because I've already been bearing the curse of playing League of Legends enough to be good at it. So while I'm doing that, might as well try to have fun actually doing that with other people. And yeah, it's been great making friends with other people who also spend too much time in front of the computer. I joined my first year as the starting support, second year of sub, and this year, my third year, back on starter roster, still playing support. I enjoy it a lot. I like the competition, and I'm a competitive person, but I'm not really personally interested in going on the pro route. For me, mostly just like it as a thing to do, way to make friends and try to win as much as we can.
All right, before we move on to the next question, I just wanted to shout out a comment from chat. The Chang Oo says, yes, sir, crispy best killjoy.
Thank you.
But moving on to our next question, how do you manage and balance your time as a player/manager with school?
I guess I can go. I feel like up until this quarter, I feel like I didn't. I feel like I don't know. Like I feel like last quarter or like the first quarter, like I mean, not gonna lie, because like I mean, I have this, and then I also like work, and I do some other clubs, and then yeah, I feel like school. I mean, I definitely could have done better those quarters. I I'm now trying to do better, but a lot of procrastination, a lot of like, damn, it's like, there's this assignment, but there's also this tournament and we got like practice and everything. It's like, I guess I have to do this like after all that. And then, it just leads to a lot of close calls. Recently, I feel like I learned a lot how to like manage my time a lot better and like plan everything out, because I feel like it is hard and I'm still not the best of it, like admittedly, but like I will. I feel like, yeah, it's definitely a learning process, but yeah.
I can relate to that. Not totally the best with time management, but I haven't found it too difficult to balance school with playing on the collegiate league team. It's because I, especially this year, don't really do that much else. I've got like, work a few hours at a part-time job, but mostly it's just games and school and hang out with people every once in a while, but not that often anymore. So, it's been pretty doable for me. I think you can kind of still do about one other major activity that has a big time commitment alongside being on a esports team, and that will fill out most of your time. If you're looking for a time commitment for the league team, it kind of looks like about 2 scrims a week, which are about 3 or so hours each, because usually you play 3 games. There is usually one VOD review session, which is where you go over a game that you've already played or a few games and just go over like coaching and stuff you could have done better. And you're also just expected to play around 15 or so solo queue games a week, which some of us already have that kind of planned in their schedule because we're already playing the game. So it's not too difficult to manage.
Yeah, so I think managing and balancing time, that's a bit of a tough one. So I'm sure everybody can relate as college students that, time is, for our generation, for our lifestyles, it's a resource that we can never get enough of. But I don't know, for me, it's a little bit different because I was never like the ace player for the team. I was never the best. I'm still far from the best. So we, on the range of ranks, I'm not sure if people are familiar with StarCraft ranks. You've got grandmasters, top 0. Whatever percent. And then above that are professionals. And then below that are everybody else. So I am in masters, which is top 5% ish of StarCraft. And that's not enough for collegiate StarCraft. It was never good enough. So I think that before I became the division head and the team manager, it was very stressful. It was, like at least 20 hours of just grinding out the game per week. And that was separate from tournament times. And, of course, every person's schedule is different. I was dealing with my own personal issues at the time. It was definitely difficult. But I mean, now that the team has grown, now that I've switched to management rather than playing mainly, it's been better because I get to delegate, I get to ask people to step up as the ace and whatnot, and for me personally, it goes back to the roots of why did I join. So I joined because I want to be a grandmaster. And any StarCraft player who's serious enough will tell you that their dream is to become a grandmaster. We have songs about it. I'm pretty sure you can Google like YouTube GM StarCraft, whatever, and then there's like this really cringe song that we all consider our anthem or whatever. I'm one of them. But management is also rewarding in its own way because it allows me to more completely represent the university that I attend. And I think that it's a better balance than trying to become the ace or trying to become the best player, because that just requires so much time. There's no way around it, really. I'm sure our other esports teams being more team-based, you guys have to commit time not only to yourselves but to your teams and the people around you. That's even more time that you have to commit to esports. And it's just, you need to be able to balance that with academics and whatnot, because I don't know about you guys, but academics are still my top priority. So I'm not looking to go pro or anything. I'm happy just casting and managing. So yeah.
Hey, but yeah, I'm gonna agree with Chris. Sometimes you just kind of don't. I mean, yes, I mean, I guess you like implicitly like doing some like time management, but like sometimes it just feels like, like you kind of, use the game as a means of procrastination and whatnot. So it's definitely a little bit tricky. It's my last 2 quarters were kind of a bit of a weird balance of trying to coach the team and also helping Adam, our team manager Adam, with some of the managing responsibilities, booking scrims, tournaments, whatnot. And kind of the last quarter, I started transitioning more into a playing role as we kind of started to get a better feel of where my foot was in the team. So it was all kind of just a big mess. There's times when we don't pick up the game for 2 weeks because you just get slammed with other work. And then you come back and then you're like, wow, those 2 weeks really did a number on where we left off. So it is, yeah, there's a bit of a balance, but you end up making up for it. And as long as you have a good team behind you, it's all completely manageable.
Cool. Thank you all for those answers. We're going to be talking a little bit about mental health now. Mental health is a pretty big concern within the esports community, so I wanted to get your all's thoughts. How do you manage and combat your mental stresses? And also kind of a personal question that I'm asking, do you guys feel like imposter syndrome is an issue within your communities?
So I'm glad that you mentioned imposter syndrome. I hope nobody minds. I actually have a lot to say on this topic. So I agree. Mental health is a big concern, both for the esports community and for just, I don't know, university life in general. It's not a system that makes you feel like you belong. It's a system that is meant to make you feel like you don't belong. And so that's why when we talk about imposter syndrome, it's like, oh, wait, I'm not the only one who has that. In fact, everybody has imposter syndrome to some extent. You could look in research, you could look in general undergrad academics, you can look in esports. It's just, I'm not, proposing a solution, because that's kind of like saying solve the biggest social issues of our time. Like that's not really possible for just one person to do. But I think that I'm glad that we're taking the time to point it out, because it's a very real thing. Going back to esports specifically, going back to my rank, there's definitely a lot of imposter syndrome. When you're going up against semi-professionals, people who you watch on Twitch, who you grew up watching on Twitch and YouTube, people who win $100,000 like it's no big deal. Like, you definitely get imposter syndrome, because you, by rank alone, do not belong in these premier tournaments. There's no other way around it. But the only way that you can push through is really rely on your teammates, rely on the people around you, especially people around you who are outside of esports. In just my opinion, but people who are not in this community can definitely give you support that people in the community maybe are unable to give, because they're also struggling with the same things at the same time. But yeah, this conversation could definitely spiral into much more than just esports, which is a very specific niche, in my opinion, of the university population. So.
I guess I can go next for. I agree with everything stated there, but I guess when it comes to like mental health, I think, especially during this quarantine, I feel like it was a little bit hard, especially. I think it's important to just know that self-care is like sometimes necessary, and to take time out. And I don't mean just like time just like playing the game, because I feel like that's not I feel like sometimes it doesn't really give you much like at all, to be honest. I mean, like literally going out and like talking with people. And I feel like for me at least, that's like my main like thing that I feel like gives me the energy back and makes me make sure that everything's okay. Especially during like the quarantine where everyone's like locked inside, I feel like sometimes it could get a little bit like lonely, especially if you're like playing on the computer all day. And even though you're talking with people all the time, I feel like not having that face to face sometimes gets hard, especially if you're like on the computer all day, which I feel like if you're doing this, you're on the computer a decent bit. But yeah, So I think remembering that there's definitely people out there, there's people that care, it's just always like reach out or like just go out and do something, just get your mind off things. I think that's really important, just to have like self-care. And then, yeah, definitely it goes a long way.
Yeah, mental health when it just comes to, gaming and just mental health in general. It's not talked about enough, but I think we're getting better. I mean, it's a very valid, thing that a lot of people have to deal with. It's and especially in the context of esports, it's mixture of time management, being a collegiate esports player, and sometimes you're dealing with the toxicity of the community, because let's face it, every no matter what game community you're part of, there's that toxic corner, that's always going to kind of be present, and you're going to encounter them every now and then. That's not very good for your mental health to deal with, and then you start to affect your gameplay and whatnot. This kind of ties back to that time management question, where part of your mental health is time management, taking time to step away from the game if needed. So we've had players that step back for like a month or two, because they had so much going on, and they came back, and they first of all, like, thankfully they managed to kind of get things more sorted out in their personal life, but in terms of just esports and their ability, like, they came back and they would play like the best games of their lives. Like, dang, like, a good break to kind of reset mentally could do wonders. It's definitely really important that it's an ongoing conversation that needs to just continue to happen. You need to just check in with yourself.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I agree with Cameron on imposter syndrome. It's definitely a big problem, but it's beyond the scope of just esports. It's something that we're all really suffering with, and it's just something that's part of this generation that we need to figure out how to overcome. But I do like what Chris said about how I think the solution, when for all of us that are cooped inside and playing on our computer all day and also working on our computer all day, is not more computer, but for me personally, mental health reset on going outside has been great for me. Meeting people wherever I can and doing things outdoors. David mentioned the toxic corner of the community, but as someone who plays League of Legends, it's not a corner. It's quite a bit of the community, especially in high ranks, and it's pretty frustrating to, like, when I'm talking with the team and I have this burst of motivation and I just really want to grind and be the best player ever, and then I'm a few games into playing with the random people online, and they told me a lot of things about myself that I can't say on the stream that I did not know. I'm like, oh, thank you. But and it's hard to maintain that motivation, but I gotta say, for our team, we're like a support system. We're like a family, and we all really help each other out. And I'm grateful for them, and I try to be someone that they can also talk to. And I think we have a good community at UCSD Esports.
Yeah, definitely a heavy conversation, but one that I think is necessary to have. But I just want to say to all you players, you guys are enough. You're doing fantastic. Thank you so much for all your hard work. And even everyone in Twitch chat, I know it's been a really long year. This is spring quarter. Keep pulling through. You guys got this. All right. Our next question. Unfortunately, a panelist wasn't able to make it today. But I feel like since we're already getting into this kind of realm of esports, I think they would have wanted me to ask this. And the question is, do you feel that the current esports atmosphere does a good enough job of including people, regardless of gender, race, and sexuality?
I'm going to start on this, and it's a little weird because, I'm the white guy. I guess there are more Asian guys, but still. I think in my experience, most people aren't, explicitly exclusive, but just by nature of the makeup of the people that are part of these communities. There happens to be a lot of guys, and I think the worst problem is for girls and women that want to be part of the esports community. It's not perfect, but like our team manager, for example, Jenny, she's great, fantastic, but she's definitely come across issues where she feels like because she's a woman, she gets treated certain ways, and I try to personally be understanding, but like it's hard. It's not like much I can do. It's something we have to do as a community to be better about these kinds of things. And I think it's getting better, but when we hear news about how even like game corporations, like say Riot Games has scandals here and there about how like they have a toxic gaming bro culture and don't treat women or some minorities well, and it's a big issue in esports from the top down, and that I think it's slowly getting better, but we all need to do a better job of being cognizant and aware of this issue.
I agree completely with what Brandon said. Top down, right? So that means that it permeates every level of esports, and it's systemic. Again, going back to the sheer scale of these issues. There's no clear solution. There are little things that we can do to try to be more inclusive, but when the culture itself, when the game itself promotes that sort of exclusivity, then it's difficult. I'm sure a lot of us in the StarCraft community are honestly just sort of waiting for the next RTS to come out. That way we can, close that chapter of the RTS book and just be like, hey, like StarCraft is a beautiful franchise. The concept of it, the lore of it, some of us, we live and breathe it all the time, right? But that being said, we need to acknowledge that it is a very problematic franchise as well. The community is very problematic. It's just by nature exclusive, and oftentimes violently so, which is a huge problem. And in my opinion, with esports in general, going beyond StarCraft, it really comes down to the fact that esports is not something that you typically see people without the means getting into, right? So like you need a computer, you need a good keyboard, you need a good mouse, you need audio setups, you need internet, you need all these different things that, for better or for worse, are expensive. And it's just, you could tie it back into socioeconomic, political standing, status, all of that different stuff, and going to the different demographics that are involved as well. But just it's such a big problem, and it's so inherent as well. It's not like you can just pick up a ball and go play in a field. It's not like you can just go running whenever you feel like it. Which, granted, I'm sure running shoes nowadays probably go for a lot. Last I checked, but esports in general, like, isn't like a good setup minimum like 1,500, like all peripherals included? Like that's just an estimate for Valorant and Splatoon players, but I'm not too sure. But anyways, yeah, just my thoughts on the inherent problems of esports being esports.
Yeah, actually, I also agree with all the points listed. I'm actually, I guess, like happy for, I think it's two different Riot teams are doing like Valorant and League, because I've heard of the Riot scandals, and then that's bad. But at least for like the Valorant scene, they've been really trying to push for more females to join the esports scene. So they're doing a lot of like Valorant tournaments where it's only girls can play in them, and then they keep doing these weekly, and then they keep putting so much funding into this. And then I think it's been doing wonders for like the Valorant community, at least, because now every pro team has a boy team and a guy team, which is kind of weird that they're kind of like separated like that. But at least there's like a lot of female pro players now in Valorant, and then that their names are like more out there. And then like when you go into ranked, some people like are more accepting. So I do feel like Riot's doing a pretty decent job. That said, I do think that's for like at least Valorant, and I feel like for a lot of other games that I've played just ranked, when I play with like my female friends online, I feel like it's the community is the worst part. Like all the toxic people we're talking about, like especially with Valorant or any other game that has like voice like communication instead of like typing. Like the second they hear the girl voice, like you could just tell like there's just like a difference of treatment. Like a lot of like sometimes they're nice, sometimes they're really not nice, and I feel like it makes it hard when like the entry is already hard enough, and once they do come in, you kind of push them out. I feel like that makes it really hard. Uh, I think it mainly with the community. I think most of the problems lies, at least because I feel like for Valorant there is a lot of infrastructure for like all these other people to come in, but uh, yeah, like these people in the ranked games or just like even like normal games are definitely not helping.
So with the Splatoon community, I mean, it's kind of interesting because we don't get a lot of backing from, you know, Nintendo and whatnot. They'll give us a tournament every once in a while. Cool, but otherwise they really don't do a whole lot. So it's very community driven. Everything starts and ends with the community. And you know, sometimes you have people that are fighting for jerk of the week. Just, you know, saying all sorts of terrible things to people online, especially that's specifically usually targeted at uh, gender and racial minorities. And it's awful. But I think with the Splatoon community, we've started to take it into our own hands. So we've developed something called the Splatoon Safety Council, which is notable people in the community and various tournament organizers and whatnot kind of come together to develop this sort of like pseudo organization where they will help, you know, anybody that's dealing with that type of crap and, you know, assign punishment to people that are, you know, just being jerks in the community and just being terrible. Like they've banned people for life, and the various tournaments sign on to this and say, you know, we agree that we are part of this organization, and whatever rulings happen, we are going to back them up. So we like they've banned all sorts of people for, you know, all racial slurs and you know, just being terrible to women and transgender people and non-binary people. And it's kind of nice to see it coming, but it's coming, you know, into fruition. But there's still a lot more work to be done. One of our teammates in this Splatoon team is non-binary, and I can't speak for them in terms of their struggles, but I know that they deal with a lot. And this ties back to the mental health question. When you start to deal with this on the daily, it really just starts to tank your mental health, and you just need. I think the good thing is that our team is just 100% supportive of them, and you know we will do legit anything for them, and because they're just a wonderful person. So especially since the rest of the team is, you know, males, and we can I guess we have a little more privilege in that aspect. So we try to utilize that to kind of, you know, create a better community. So
Awesome. Thank you all for your answers, and thank you all for being respectful. That was a really good conversation. Thank you all for having a part in that. We can kind of move on to some more lighthearted stuff now, you know, but it is necessary to acknowledge the darker side of esports. So moving on to our next question. What advice would you have for other students who want to become a part of collegiate esports?
Well, if you play League of Legends, please definitely try out. There is nothing to lose. We have tryouts every year, early and fall quarter, I believe. Oh, and if you wanted to do the management side of things or coaching or analyst or something like that, I believe we have applications in the late summer. So that's kind of early. So be on the lookout on the League of Tritons and UCS Esports Discord and social media and stuff like that. For players, there's a lot of slots. There's like 5 starters in the league team. There's up to 5 subs. And then there's 5 or 6 players that play on our JV roster, which is not officially recognized by UCSD Esports, but it's still affiliated and part of, you know, the league family and all. So there's plenty of slots to compete for. It's not like you have to be the very best of the best. You have to be up there. But yeah, there's a lot of people that need to be part of it. So please try out. Just don't try out for support though. That's my rule. You want to hone your skills over the summer for sure. There's a Diamond 4 requirement just in general across the board. And in my experience, it's usually a high diamond or better preferred for varsity. And most of the starting roster are masters or grandmasters players. So if you play league, you know that's a pretty high up percentile. So got to be good. My advice to those people are, you know, outside of getting good, which is given, I think you should come in with an open mind, without a big ego, like looking to learn and both for yourself and help your teammates along. And I think that kind of mentality is great for, you know, the team going forward and helps us be better as a school and maybe for you as an individual too.
I think that was really well said by Brandon, right? So there's that sort of attitude of improvement, of self-improvement, as well as outward improvement for both the university and the team. I would concur with that. I think that if you are, especially if you're a new student, an incoming freshman or anything like that, and you're thinking, you know, hey, collegiate esports might be my vibe, right? You know, like, I would personally say, please consider it very carefully. It is not one of those more lighthearted commitments. So it could be comparing like a sport to a sports club, right? So I think that collegiate esports, of course, depending on the team and depending on your role, it can be very draining in terms of time commitment, in terms of mental stamina, and in terms of all of these different metrics that, you know, you may or may not use. But it can also be very rewarding. It's a sport. It's a commitment. That's all I can really say about that. It's just not, you know, there's always that cliche where it's like you get what you put in. But when it comes to a team, when it comes to a commitment of that sort, there is oftentimes a bar of, or not a bar, but a sort of minimum of commitment. So I think just being aware of that and you know, going into it with the right attitude, as was mentioned earlier, I think that these are all, you know, important things to consider, not to deter anybody, of course, but just to acknowledge that, hey, this is something serious. And if you're serious, then yeah, go for it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I also concur with all of that. I think the best thing you can do is try out. I didn't think I was gonna make it when I tried out, but I'm like, I made it. I feel like a lot of people feel the same way. I feel like the worst thing you can do is just not try at all. So especially for Valorant, I would join the Valorant Discord, the Trident Valorant Discord. I'm pretty sure every esport has their own Discord where they put a lot of information out there where all the tournaments are. If you want to see how you stack up, we do bi-weekly, like just like in-houses where we could just play with each other and everything, and then you could just see. But yeah, definitely over the summer, if you, I guess you want to make it, just grind out. If you want to be on a varsity team, at least like high diamond. And then, yeah, the varsity team is made up of like all immortal, no radiance yet. So if you're a radiant, very good chances you can make it in. But yeah, so yeah, definitely just grind out ranked, be ready to play, especially if it's a team game. Make sure that the team is important. Don't, if you're going into tryouts, don't go in trying to be like, you know, I'm just going to show off myself. I'm going to go just run it down and try to get as many kills as possible. Because I mean, because where do you really place that person in a team setting? It's pretty hard. So you gotta know what you're getting yourself into. Be prepared to learn. Be prepared to put time in, and then be prepared to be a part of a team. So, yeah.
I think everybody absolutely nailed that answer. But yeah, I think it was Cameron that mentioned that it's a sports team. Like it's it's not like think of it this way. Are you going to go out there and to a football team and just, you know, start doing whatever it is? Like, no, like it's a team sport. And, you know, sometimes people forget that when it's an esport and they're kind of focused, you know, on themselves. And it's like, no. Like if you're serious about this is still a team activity a lot of the time. So just you need to think of it as like any other sports team. Like you're not the only person out there on the field. You're not the only person, that's going to touch the basketball. And in this case, you're not the only person that's, moving a character around on the screen. Like, these you're interacting with each other, and your teammates rely on whatever actions you are doing. So it's very important to have that mentality, because sometimes it's really hard to like a lot of times, ranked is a decent measure of how somebody might perform in a competitive setting. It's not the measure. Because in our system, it's a lettering system, so it goes from C- to X, and X is the highest rank. So it's like C- to A plus, and then like S +0 to S +9, and then you hit X, and then X has an entirely new ranking system. It's very confusing. But a lot of times, like, there's really, really like high X level players. Like I think the highest person in the world, like basically for a metric, is like X rank 3000. That's like the highest person. But they a lot of times kind of play, more solo, because their skills don't transfer as well to a team. But if they do ever play in a team, they'll do pretty darn well, because their X power is just ridiculous. But it's not a one-to-one measure. So even if you feel like your skills, like your individual skills, lack a little bit, it's not necessarily just like a complete deterrent. Like you shouldn't be playing in esports. You can make up for that in callouts and your game sense. So it's definitely a lot more to it than just raw skill.
All right, we are going to be moving on to our last question here. This one was brought up by a TG officer. Do you think that esports athletes receive enough support from colleges and universities?
Are we talking in terms of mental health or scholarships? I
Or
feel like
D, all
they're,
of the above.
Yeah,
yeah.
anything you want to talk about?
Well, we are seeing UCSD Esports really try to come up, right? So UCSD Esports is a relatively new organization that has been supporting the various esports on campus. And they are wonderful people. They've been doing their best to try to, get the players the support that they need being athletes in a competitive environment. As for other metrics like scholarships and spaces to compete in, I don't think that many universities are really mindful of the time commitment that esports sort of garner. So I think, the term esport is still, it still holds a little bit of a stigma. It's like, oh, that's just an excuse for people to be really good at video games, right? Like in the end, there will still be that stigma that it's just a video game, even if people commit their entire lives to it and make a lot of money on it, professionally speaking. It doesn't really matter, because to some, it might always just be a video game. That being said, universities, especially public universities such as UCSD, are oftentimes notorious for how little they support their students in general, much less in esports. And I think I want to go back to something that David mentioned about how the Splatoon community has already sort of come together on its own to combat toxicity. It's sort of the same thing in esports, where in a lot of different video gaming communities, it's really just community based that the support comes up, and that we see we see more professional-ish, I don't know how else to call it, professional sort of support in the form of scholarships, in the form of actual prize pools, that kind of thing. The perfect example could just be UCSD Esports itself. It was started just by a group of people who came up from Triton Gaming, actually. And so they talked with UCSD Rec and said, hey, we want to make this thing happen. And so they've been really struggling hard. So I do want to give a shout out to them. And it also shows that, it's difficult, but it's not impossible. I know that UC Irvine is infamous for how good their esports are, just sort of all across the board in a way. But hopefully UCSD comes up as well. So.
Yeah, I agree with everything Cameron said. As representative for the league team, which I believe has been around the longest, well before UCSD esports was a thing, back when it was just a few friends who wanted to compete against other schools from Trident Gaming. A lot of the league infrastructure that we have is really community driven. It's something that we've come up with for ourselves, and we have enough in that regard, but it would be nice if we could get more support from the top down. I do appreciate everyone that UCSD Esports is working to make more things happen, like the Trident Esports Center that's just finished construction and is waiting to be used next year. I'm super excited for that. But beyond that, we mentioned mental health. That's an issue that people face in esports, but I mean, that's something a little broader than that, I think. Scholarships, look, I mean, we're a good team on the league team. Like we usually are about like top 4 in West Conference, which is what we got this year again. And you know, we did beat UCI this year. We got a place, so you know, just saying. But if I were to receive a scholarship, I might even play better. But seriously, I appreciate what the school is doing and the people that are working to make it happen and develop as a program. But you know, if we could see even more happen, that'd be even better.
Yeah, I agree with all that. That said, I am like, this is my first year being on a collegiate team, and Valorant as like a esports team as a whole is like very new, like not even a year yet. So I don't really know everything, I guess, that we're lacking, because I don't really know what is possible, or haven't really seen like, I guess, what UCI is providing, to be honest, to be able to make so many good teams. But I guess I will try to speak on some of the, I guess, good side, like the tech, the like, you know, the Trident Gaming Center, that's going to be huge. They're really allowing people to like, you know, just practice in those. Like the headset I'm using, like I got it for free just because of the sponsorship. Like sometimes they give out some free peripherals, which does help. Of course, like the scholarship would work way better for like a lot of things, and then it would really help people, you know, I guess, like practice a lot harder and then make it like more dedicated to, especially if they want to get like better results as a school as a whole, just like when it comes to like, it's just like all games across the board. But like I do think like the UCSD like esports, like they're doing amazing, like that like group of people. But like the actual like university itself, I guess they could do more. They're just handing out a bit of money here and there, but like it's like they're not really, I don't know, I guess, getting too into it. Nothing too personal, but yeah.
Yeah, at least on the UCSD front, we're getting there. It's baby steps, baby steps. That's kind of the mentality that I've had to approach with this. I mean, given that I am graduating, I'm not gonna see exactly the benefits that future players are gonna get, but I do know that I'm very hopeful. And that it does seem like there are a couple things lined up to better benefit esports athletes at UCSD in the future for years to come. So starting with potential for small scholarships, I know that that's been in discussion for a little while now. So hopefully that can, you know, be more cemented and slowly start to build that as well. Because I know that's something that I mean, everybody talked about it here, and that's something that's, you know, going to be a really nice incentive as well if we want to compete with schools like UCI. But in general, just colleges are doing better. They are recognizing that this is the real deal. This esports is legit, and you know, it's time that everybody caught up. And you know, I mean, there's all sorts of schools that are, you know, already starting to lead the way with that, and it's kind of one of the things that's, you know, it's nice to see UCSD is finally recognized that as well. But you know, even though we're not seeing the exact things that schools like Maryville or UCI are getting right off the bat, we're gonna get there soon. I think that we are on the right track at the very least.
And like we were saying, big shout out to all our sponsors that are making this possible, giving us equipment, giving equipment to our schools so we can have somewhere to actually play. As we got baby steps, but the sponsors are like doing the heavy lifting here and they make a lot of this possible. So
Yep,
thank you guys very much.
absolutely. That is 100% true.
Yeah, we have some wonderful sponsors at TGEX. Turtle Beach, Rockcat, Corsair, Oris, Quick Drop Media, and Twitch Student. Should support all of those. As a reminder, we do have the Twitch Student giveaway still open. All you have to do is type !Twitch Student in the chat. It'll tell you how to enter. And I'm going to give everyone here the opportunity for any last thoughts in a second. If there's any last message you want to say to anyone listening. But thank you all for coming here. As a reminder, we have Brandon from the League team, Cameron from StarCraft, Crispy from Valorant, and David from Splatoon. Now, any last thoughts from anyone here?
Thank you, everyone. And then please please join these Discords. I feel like new people are always welcome. New people are always like in demand. Seriously, just try out. Even if you think like there's no shot, there's definitely a shot. Just try out.
There's always a chance. I'm not individually involved in the other communities that are represented here, but I am sure that just join. I'm sure that all of these communities are very welcoming. I know our Splatoon community, we will welcome you with open arms. We are a very niche community. So we are always so excited when somebody's like, hey, I play Splatoon, I go to Discord. We're like, hey, one of us. It's a party when we find another person. But so even if you just don't know a whole lot about the game, we will still welcome you in and show you the ropes if you're curious enough. So that's all I really got to say about that. But definitely just give it a shot.
Yeah, definitely piggybacking off of that. I think that if there's one takeaway from this panel, it's that there are definitely some very inclusivity minded people in UCSD esports. I think that is going back to what Miles was trying to bring up earlier. It's something important that needs to be addressed. And I think that you will definitely, if you're new to UCSD, if you're new to esports in general, you'll definitely find a bit of a safer community here. So I think we're very inclusive minded. We're always welcoming new people. So yeah, you definitely join our Discords.
Yeah, this thing is a giant ad for us to say, please join the esports teams, come try out. We'd love to have you. Or you can message me on Discord if you have any questions, the panelist tag. So I think I'm distinctive there. And yeah, we'd love to have you. Please come try out. Love to meet new people, make friends.
So I'm actually silver, but I have over 2,000 ARAM games. So can I try out?
You could try out, but getting on the team, not guaranteed. But there's a great League of Tritons community that does a lot of in-houses and stuff. That's not the competitive side, but just a student club that I'm sure you are a part of.
All right. Once again, thanks everyone for watching. Please go into the Division Directory channel in the Triton Gaming Discord. Join all these communities. They're awesome. Everyone here, we got StarCraft, Valorant, Splatoon, League, communities for all of them. Get involved. And on this stream in 25 minutes, we're going to be having Tritons of Aether doing a tournament. And I believe StarCraft at 6, we are going to be having the StarCraft going on mainstream, my bad. But thank you all for watching. And I think that makes the end of the panel. You can end the stream.